I don't know any leader anywhere who doesn't deal with stress. Stress is just part of the package when you're a leader. It comes with the territory. It doesn't matter the size or the scope of the thing you're leading. It doesn't matter what part of the life cycle your organization is in. It doesn't really even matter what stage of leadership you are in personally. There is no such thing as a stress-free leadership arena. If you're growing, it's stressful. If you're declining, it's stressful. If you're stagnant, it's stressful. The only leaders who don't have stress are the leaders who are dead. Welcome to the Matt Ware Show, a podcast for leaders who want more and won't settle for less. Straight talk to help you lead better, live bolder, and not lose yourself in the process. If you're serious about going to the next level in life and leadership, you're in the right place. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on the Matt Ware Show. We're going to talk about a topic that applies to every leader at every level, and that is stress. Leadership is about stress. Life is about stress. Every leader I know struggles with stress. Some leaders are addicted to it. They complain about it all the time, but the truth is they don't know any other way to live. And so they actually create stress in every room they walk into because they're so addicted to this high pressure, high stakes, high tension, high demand environment, and they don't realize it's slowly destroying them and destroying the people around them. Other leaders are so scared of the stress that they do everything they can to avoid it. They use every tool, every resource at their disposal to offload anything that causes discomfort. They think the ultimate goal is to build their organization to the point that they just have no stress at all. They can just lay on the beach and play golf for the rest of their lives. And both of those extremes have a very flawed view of what stress is, what it does, how to leverage it, and how to relate to it. And that's what I want to talk about in this episode. I'm going to address this based on what I've learned from a mentor of mine, Dr. Mark Rutland, what I've gleaned from a brilliant medical doctor who's written about this, Dr. Sharon Bergquist, from the years that I've spent coaching and consulting leaders and observing how stress has affected them, and from my own personal experiences in my leadership journey. I think we need to start by dissecting this sort of catch-all word or term or concept that we call stress, because we really do have to understand it, I think, at a more sophisticated and nuanced level. We often use the word stress as a word that describes just about anything that makes us feel some level of mental or emotional pressure or anxiety. Anything going on in our lives or leadership that causes a strain or a tension or a discomfort. Stress has both a psychological and physiological response to real or perceived threats or challenges that we face. Sometimes that's in a very acute, kind of in your face, in the moment sort of way. And sometimes it's this chronic, just kind of always there background noise kind of way. The problem is we lump all of that into this one word, this one concept that we call stress. And generally speaking, we assume that all of it is bad. More leaders have had their personal and professional lives undone by the effect of stress than any other factor. And that's why it's paramount to know how to relate to stress in the right way. Because what top researchers have discovered and what great leaders already know is that not all stress is created equal. And not all stress is bad. There's a stress that wears you down, and there's a stress that takes you up. There's a stress that brings out your worst, and there's also a stress that brings out your best. There's a stress that can completely take you out, and there's a stress that can help you step in to your greatest power and your greatest potential. Stress is never going away, but how you deal with it and how you relate to it can make all the difference in your life and your leadership. So first, we need to understand that at a very basic level, there are two types of stress. Number one, the first type is called distress. That's actually the one we usually refer to when we say stress. Distress is this chronic, unrelenting pressure that sometimes we face in leadership. It makes us feel fatigued and worn down and exhausted. It's what leads to burnout. It begins to decrease our performance over time. It lends itself to negative coping mechanisms as we seek relief. In its essence, distress really exceeds my capacity to deal with it, to handle it. It's something that's bigger than me. something that's beyond me, something that feels like it's never going away. And distress is usually more of a long-term chronic situation, this soul-sucking, joy-stealing, destructive, discouraging kind of stress. Okay, that's the bad stress. But there's another kind of stress called eustress. Not Y-O-U, stress, but E-U. It's a Greek prefix that actually means well or good. And that's because although eustress is still stress, it's the good kind of stress. Eustress is a stress that motivates me. It inspires me to step up and perform at my very best. It's within my capacity, but it's at the very top end of my range, so I've got to be fully on my game. Eustress is energizing. It's engaging, it's exciting, it's challenging. There's this reward in sight for it. It's short term, and so it's full of adrenaline. It makes me rise to the occasion and step into greatness. It's stressful, but it's the right kind of stress. Let me give you examples of this to maybe help us, kind of understand it. I have a client who's in the restaurant business, and the first 6 or 12 months of COVID was just brutal for anybody in that industry. Everything was shut down. Of course, depending on where you were at in the country, some places were more restrictive than others. In a lot of places, you couldn't open your doors for weeks or maybe even months. And then when you finally could, you were at 25% capacity, maybe 50% capacity at most. Everybody's spread out, wearing masks, the whole thing. And restaurants are already on really thin margins, right? And you still have to pay your team. You still have to source your food. You're still paying leases on the locations that you're in, but there's no money coming in, or maybe, there's a fraction of the money that there used to be, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Federal and state and local agencies are calling the shots. There's fickle consumer behavior. People don't know, about the mask mandates. They don't know about the vaccines and all of this. There's so much outside of your control, so much that affects you and your team and your financial resources. And it goes on for a long period of time. No end in sight. It almost feels indefinite. Okay. That is distress. Eustress, on the other hand. Okay, that's when your basketball team is down by 1 point with 3 seconds left in the game. Okay, and you're on the bench, you're drawing up the play, and the whistle's about to blow, and you're gonna inbound the ball, you're gonna get it to your best shooter, and he's gonna have one chance, one shot at the buzzer to win the whole thing. Okay, that's stressful, but it's within your capacity, it's within your capability to handle it. Your blood pressure is going to go up, your pulse is going to raise, the adrenaline is flowing, but in a good way. This feels good. It motivates you. You want to rise to the occasion. You feel fully alive. You feel like you were born for this moment. And it's only for a moment. In a few seconds, win or lose, the game is over. So this is short term. It's this quick burst, and then you come back down to normal. That's eustress. As I describe this, I think you're getting the picture, right? These are both kinds of stress, but not all kinds of stress are created equal, right? Distress wears you down, whereas eustress brings you up. Distress drains the life out of you, and eustress makes you feel more alive maybe than you've ever felt before. And so to call both of those things stress it's a little bit of a misnomer. It's a little bit of an injustice to the word. And it's not actually helpful or healthy for us to see it in that simplistic kind of way. We actually need stress. The good kind, the right kind, in the right ways, at the right time, in the right amount, to be at our very best in life and in leadership. In her book called The Stress Paradox, Dr. Sharon Bergquist talks about this. She calls it episodic stress. The idea that human beings actually thrive when they go through episodes of stress followed by times of recovery. This rhythm of stress and rest, stress and rest. If you've ever done interval training, like HIIT or something like that, it's the same idea. You do something really hard, really intense for a brief period of time, followed by a time of rest and recovery. And what happens? Your body gets stronger because of it. Well, the same thing is true for us as leaders. When we experience the right kinds of stress, the eustress that taps into our very highest capabilities, and we have this rhythm of stress and recovery, we actually get stronger mentally and emotionally and in our leadership capacity. It makes us better than if we just had the chronic, unrelenting stress all the time. And believe it or not, it actually makes us better than if we had no stress at all. And this is where so many leaders get it wrong. Because most leaders I know and work with either get comfortable with the toxicity of chronic stress that never lets up, never goes away, so much so that it becomes part of the fiber of their being and they really don't even know how to live without it. Or they're doing everything they can to create a stress-free life, stress-free leadership environment, which is not only not possible, it's not even healthy. And that's why I'm saying that leaders have to change their relationship with stress. We have to understand the good stress and the bad stress, how to manage it, how to cope with it, how to embrace it, how to leverage it so we can be at our very best. We could probably stop the episode right here because hopefully this just helped highlight the two different kinds of stress and why we actually want the good stress. We want to embrace it, that eustress. But I actually want to go into another layer of this topic because there are some things that I learned from Dr. Mark Rutland, one of my leadership mentors, that really helped me understand all of this at a much deeper level. Years ago, I heard him talk about this topic, and he used a bow, an archery, bow and arrow sort of bow, as the metaphor to explain how leaders have to navigate and develop a healthy relationship with stress. To set this up, we need to go back a couple thousand years into Roman history following the death of Julius Caesar, when there was a three-way power struggle for the control of Rome. One faction was led by Brutus and his gang who were behind the assassination. One was led by Octavius, the 19-year-old inexperienced kid who would ultimately win and become Caesar Augustus. And one was led by Mark Antony, Julius Caesar's right-hand man, military hero, the one everybody would have put money on, but who ultimately lost. And the question is, how did Mark Antony lose? Why did Mark Antony lose? And the Roman historian Suetonius wrote about this, and the word he used to describe Mark Antony was the word eklusis. Eklusis, it's the Greek word that means the unstrung bow. It's a picture, it's a metaphor of describing how Mark Antony conducted his life and leadership. It gives us a very, very vivid mental image, an unstrung bow. A bow that is not strung, a bow that has no string on it, has no energy, has no power. I mean, really, it's just a stick at that point. It can't really do anything. It certainly can't fulfill its purpose. It can't accomplish what it was designed for, what it was meant to do. An unstrung bow can't launch an arrow, can't hit a target, can't kill the animal if you're hunting with it. An unstrung bow isn't good for much of anything. An unstrung bow is neutered, it's neutralized of its impact and its effectiveness. And there were four elements of eklusis, the unstrung bow, that this Roman historian pointed out that he believed attributed to and ultimately explained why Mark Antony lost a civil war that he really should have won. The first one is this: loss of focus. Loss of focus. It's said that Mark Antony really lost focus during this time period. He forgot what he was really doing, what he was really there for, what this was really all about, what it needed to be dialed in on. As a leader, you cannot afford to lose your focus. You have to have your head in the game. You have to keep your mind right. From the time I was a little kid, every sport I ever played, my dad always told me, keep your eye on the ball. Leaders, you have to keep your eye on the ball. If you take your eye off the ball, even for a split second, you can make mistakes, you can lose opportunities, you can blow up what you've spent a long time to build up. There's a term my kids use all the time: lock in, right? That's the Gen Alpha phrase for staying focused, lock in. You have to lock in if you want to live and lead at the highest level. The second aspect of eklusis, the unstrung bow, is that you allow yourself to become distracted. Allow yourself to become distracted. Now, this is similar to losing focus, but losing focus is kind of an internal issue, and distraction is more of an external issue. It's the issue of outside stimulus, this external thing that's vying for your attention, that gets you to look away from where you really should be focused on. In business leadership, Alex Hormozy calls this the woman in the red dress from The Matrix, right? The scene where Neo he's going through training, he's learning that the Matrix actually sends distractions that are intended to deceive you and ultimately destroy you. And when Neo takes even a quick glance at the woman in the red dress who walks by, what he finds out is that was actually an agent in disguise ready to kill him. Well, in Mark Antony's case, it literally was a woman, Cleopatra. He was so enamored by, so distracted by her, that he took her on a honeymoon, on a world tour, while Octavius was building up his army to go to war with him. And it's so easy, especially in the world that we live in today, to become distracted as leaders. Whether it's the daily, just scrolling on our social media apps or trying to keep up with the latest trends, or maybe we're experimenting a little too much with different things in our business models or our marketing, whatever it is. Distraction is everywhere, and it can rob us of our energy and our power. It's part of the problem of the unstrung bow. The third area of eclusis is self-indulgence. Self-indulgence. Great leadership requires great self-leadership. It requires great discipline. You will rarely see good leaders who have not learned how to lead themselves. And by the way, the most difficult person you will ever lead is you. The most difficult person I will ever lead is me. Other people are not your biggest problem. Your employees, your team, your staff, your congregation, your volunteers, they are not your biggest challenge as a leader. Your biggest challenge is leading yourself day in and day out, developing the discipline, the rigor that's required to get to and stay at your very best, to be the best version of yourself, to not allow your faults and flaws and weaknesses to upend your progress and success. We all have areas of our lives that can sabotage us if we let them. Things that make us tend toward laziness and lethargy and loss of focus. That's why it requires discipline to push back against those things. Great leaders must learn how to lead themselves. In Mark Antony's case, he never really figured it out. He never figured out how to lead himself well. He never figured out how to overcome his own weaknesses. Whether it was alcoholism or promiscuity or extreme displays of vanity, almost self-worship, his self-indulgence was so out of control that it really represented this unstrung bow, this loss of energy and power. The fourth aspect of eclusis, the unstrung bow, is that we underestimate the competition. Underestimate the competition. Mark Antony committed one of the most simple and basic acts of stupidity in leadership when he underestimated the competition in Octavius. He didn't think Octavius had a snowball's chance in hell of beating him and taking over the Roman Empire, so he didn't take him seriously. He significantly underestimated what Octavius was capable of. And we all know how this plays out in every arena of life, every arena of leadership. Every great political upset, every great athletic upset almost always has this element of someone entirely underestimating the competition. Remember back to the 2016 election, the shock that went through so much of the country, and especially through Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party, because they had so significantly underestimated Donald Trump. I mean, there was no way in their minds that this guy who was so unpresidential, so outside the Washington norms, could have ever won the presidency. And yet he did. So many great sporting events go down this way too. The combination of overestimating yourself and underestimating your opponent, right? I mean, championships in every sport at every level get squandered, get lost, not because of lack of talent, but because of lack of respect for the other team's talent. And it's the same in organizational leadership. If you begin to underestimate your competition, if you don't take them seriously, if you don't pay attention to what they're doing, what they're building, what they're capable of, you are becoming the unstrung bow. The thing that has all the potential in the world, but is stripped of its power and its impact. Eclusis, the unstrung bow. This is the metaphor, the mental image we have of a leader who doesn't have enough stress, doesn't have enough tension, doesn't have enough pressure or skin in the game, doesn't have enough invested and involved to keep him fully locked in and performing at his very best. Eclusis, the unstrung bow. It's the picture of a person who's trying to get rid of all the stress, to live a stress-free life, to just sort of be in perpetual vacation mode with not enough at stake to keep them engaged and at peak performance. Everybody thinks they want to be stress-free, but what they're actually doing is setting themselves up to live in a state of eclusis, loss of focus, easily distracted, self-indulgent, and underestimating their competition. And that's no way for a leader to live. But there is another equal and opposite problem to eclusis, to the unstrung bow, and it's called string follow. String follow is the term in the archery world for what happens to a bow that is strung all the time, under significant pressure, under significant stress for an indefinite period of time. Classic bows, not the fancy compound ones that bow hunters use today, but the old school ones, right? That you played with as a kid or you see in medieval movies or Westerns. The simple, string with a stick with a string on it. They actually aren't made to be strung all the time. In fact, what happens is that if you leave the bow strung all the time, because of the tension of the string and how it bends the wood, over time it begins to reshape and reform, actually deform the bow. And the term for that is string follow. The bow is following the path of the string and it's being bent in an unnatural way. The material itself, because of the constant stress, the constant tension that's being put on it, actually begins to degrade and break down and causing it to weaken. Over time, it begins to negatively affect the performance of the bow. The power and speed go down. The energy potential of the wood decreases, and so it releases the arrow at a slower speed. That also means the arrow doesn't go as far, it doesn't hit as hard. And once this happens, in most cases, it's literally a permanent condition for the bow that cannot be corrected, cannot be fixed, cannot be undone. The bow can't bounce back because the energy in the wood is gone. String follow is so destructive, it's so dangerous to a bow that in the worst situations, it's been reshaped. The wood has been weakened so much that if you were to pull back on the string at that point, the bow could literally snap. It can put out an eye, it can puncture you. String follow can actually be fatal. And that's the picture of a leader who lives with constant, unending, unrelenting, unresolved stress, distress, where there's so much tension for so long that it never lets up, it never lets go, it never backs off, and it actually reforms or deforms their life. And eventually something really damaging, really dangerous can happen to that leader. We've all known or at least heard of leaders who have significant collapses in their life as a result of string follow, the stress that was just too much for too long. Health crises like heart attacks or strokes, substance abuse or addiction, relational breakdowns or breakups, mental health episodes. Something just snaps either in their personal or professional lives. And what I want to suggest to you is that leadership sits somewhere between eclusis and string follow. It sits somewhere in between not having enough stress and having too much stress. Somewhere between being significantly over your capacity or significantly under it. As a leader, I've lived in both of these. I've lived in eclusis, where I didn't have enough stress, I didn't have enough tension, and I allowed myself to lose focus, to get distracted, to become undisciplined, to begin underestimating my competition, what the world around me was capable of, or what they required of me to stay in the game. I've also lived in string follow, with this unrelenting, unyielding, chronic stress that broke me down in ways that I couldn't even really understand or articulate at the time. Ways that caused discouragement and destruction to my soul that were very difficult to recover from. And if you're a leader watching or listening to this and you feel either one of those, I just want you to know I've felt it too, and you're not alone. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to face that, to walk through that, and by God's grace, to come out on the other side better and stronger because of it. If you need somebody in your corner to help you make sense of the eclusis or the string follow that you're experiencing, reach out to me. I can walk that path with you because I've walked it myself. I can help you get healthy again as a leader. Friends, listen, if we're going to live well and lead well, we have to get this stress thing figured out. We really do. We can't live in eclusis and we can't live in string follow. We have to know how to navigate the bad stress and the good stress. We have to understand the distress that wears away at us because it's so chronic and insidious and really just accepted in executive leadership, even though we know deep down it's not sustainable because it's bringing out the worst in us and ultimately leading to our demise. We also have to understand the eustress that makes us go to the next level and rise to the occasion, that taps into our greatest potential and brings out the very best version of who we are and who we're meant to be. We don't want eclusis, the unstrung bow with no stress at all, because we need it to grow and perform and reach our capacity. But we also don't want string follow, where our lives are bent and deformed under the weight of a stress that we weren't intended to carry so much of it for so long. We have to have the right relationship with the right kind of stress if we're going to live and lead well. I hope this has helped you, maybe challenged you, maybe been a little sobering if you're reflecting on where you're at in your relationship with stress in your leadership right now. If you know somebody who could benefit from this, would you share it with them? It would mean the world to me, and it might make all the difference for them too. If you haven't already, would you subscribe and do me a favor, go rate or review this on whatever platform you're on. 5 stars is especially helpful. It just helps boost the visibility a little bit so we can get more leaders and help them and go with them on this journey. As always, you can find me at themattware.com and at themattware on all the social channels. Thank you for being with me today on the Matt Ware Show. And until next time, go lead better and live bolder.